The Talking Cheeseheads on cheeseheadtalk.com.
So we saw early on yesterday that it was not going to be Steve Stricker's day at Marion. He parred the first. You're thinking, okay. I had seen the tee off and the par, and I was, unless you have no life, and I apologize if this was your case yesterday, you can't watch the whole thing because it's just too long of an event. But I did see him tee off, and I saw him par, and then I'm thinking, good start, here we go. Because in the back of your mind with Stricker, you're always hoping that he can at least play his best on the final day. That's what you're hoping, because you've seen before where he has not. And it seems like, not necessarily able to rise to the pressure of the situation. And I think, say what you want. I know people will either think that's the case or not, but, he shanked the ball. And that's so, for me, that's once around. But for others, it's more. But for a professional golfer and a guy who is playing as well as Steve Stricker, who had not done it all week, it's kind of unbelievable. I was stunned, too. You don't know if you can believe your eyes. You see that he hits the ball out of bounds off the second tee, and you kind of hang your head a little bit and say, oh, boy, let's hope he can find a way to get bogey here. And then so he, hits 3 and is hitting 4 from the fairway and deciding to lay up. So you're hoping he can lay up, then knock it within 10 feet and knock it in for the bogey. And so it's not even a shank on a powerful swing. He's taking a layup swing, and he shanks a ball out of bounds. And the look on his face, it was too bad. You felt for the guy, obviously. If you're rooting for him the way that certainly I was, and I think a lot of people around Wisconsin were yesterday. He shanks it out of bounds, and before you know it's a triple bogey, and then a bogey on the following hole, and then a couple of more. With no par or no birdies on the round, and finished well enough down the stretch, but was already out of it by that point. And the sad thing is, you look at the way the round played out, and it's not to say that he could have shot even par, because just about nobody shot even par yesterday. Ernie Els did a couple under, a couple guys were in at under par. But the thing that gave me hope going into the round yesterday was Stricker's performance on Saturday. The way he overcame the double bogey to birdie a couple of holes, and then make some tough pars down the stretch when other guys were getting beat. And Steve Stricker, again, was not beaten by the last 5 holes. He was beaten by the first 5 yesterday. So uncharacteristic, got off to a tough start, and tough to see. Is this his last shot at a U.S. Open? Probably. I think it probably is. Is it his last shot at a major? Well, I can't see him winning in Augusta. Just he's never really been in serious contention there. But I can see him maybe pulling out a British Open. That's one that's very doable in the context that a major is doable. It's one that's very doable. You look at Tom Watson at age 50, should have won it a couple of years back. Missed a putt that should have won it. So that's incredibly possible, and I think anything's possible depending on the course and the setup at the PGA. And I'm talking about this year, too, because, we're in the window here. Stricker's 46. He's got to get it done sooner rather than later. And I would think my guess would be my ventured guess would be that if he gets himself in contention a few more times, eventually he'll be able to pull one out. He's good enough to win one. He's good enough to have the golf gods shine on him and win a major at some point. So, and I so hope it happens. And it's too bad it wasn't yesterday. I just don't think that going forward he's going to have the length to win a U.S. Open. I don't know. You can do it at the British. That's probably his best shot, I would think. Maybe a PGA. But these courses are so long, and I'll get to this in a minute, but just, a guy like Stricker who can hit the ball a long way, but not nearly as long, I guess, as Phil, Tiger, some of these other bombers. You have to be so perfect, and your approach shots are from 200 yards. Well, it's hard to get it close enough to make a ton of birdies, especially on those greens, with your approach shots from 200 yards away, 180, where other guys are able to at least pull out, a shorter iron and knock it stiff. So it's tough. Everybody thought he'd be in contention. He was. It was a great first 3 rounds for Steve Stricker. Really hoping, pulling for him yesterday, just didn't work out. Now, to the USGA, okay? Because here you go again with these course setups. And what we're talking about for the U.S. Open, always so tough. And we'll touch on this on the podcast in a minute when Reed Roberts comes in. I'm so tired of this. I think the 18th hole, as one example, is just silly. you don't have a single player. These are the best players in the world. They are fantastic. And they're better now than they ever have been in the history of the sport. And you set up an 18th hole over the weekend at the U.S. Open where not one of them, even a guy with no pressure on him who's not in contention, not one of them can make birdie. I mean, that's silly. That's absolutely silly, in my opinion. Or IMO, as the texters like to say. That's so wrong to me. You know, and it was clear what they did. They backed the tee box up another 50 yards from where it had been in previous Opens at Merion. Why? Why? What are you so scared of? You know, you get to set up this course to defend par so much. I don't understand it. You know, what's wrong with 4 under winning the Open? What's wrong with seeing that? I guess I so prefer to see guys who can make shots and have a chance to, you know, down the stretch, actually win the thing rather than just survive it. I mean, you got golfers coming out of this thing with PTSD. You know, I mean, it's just, to me, it's too much. And I'm not asking for you know, tournaments where you can go 18 under. That's not what I'm saying. I still think it can be by far the toughest test of all the majors, which it is by far now. But, you know, just tweak a little bit. Why does it have to be a par 70? Why can't you throw a couple extra par 5s in there like a normal course and make it par 72? Why do you have to make a par 4 530 yards? 530 yards. I would have to hit driver twice and I'd still be short. You know? I mean, it's insane. To me, it doesn't make any sense. And I wish they would look at it. They're not going to. You know, it's always going to be like this where guys just, the one who just flat out survives. When you're talking about Justin Rose, who, by the way, won the U.S. Open, having to hit 2 magnificent shots just to be on the fringe, the back fringe of the green on 18, and then makes par. So he has this miraculous hole to make par. To make par. Not birdie, par. Come on. That's a pet peeve of mine. Will always be. Every year you'll hear me rant about this at the U.S. Open. I think it's ridiculous. And I'm not talking about making it a scoring frenzy. I'm talking about making it a little bit of a chance for guys. You want to have some tough holes, fine. But throw in the 2 extra par 5s, the way the course is meant to be played. And don't kill yourself on these par 4s to make them just impossible. I mean, it's a joke that nobody birdied the 18th in the final 2 days. That's a joke to me. Anyway, we're the Talking Cheeseheads. Go get them Strick at the British and PGA this year. I'm Ben Larson. You can hear the full podcast on iTunes. Go to iTunes, type in the Talking Cheeseheads, and subscribe and enjoy. Also with a YouTube channel, which you might be seeing this on now. Subscribe and enjoy. The Talking Cheeseheads at YouTube. Back with Reed Roberts coming up. We'll talk about the U.S. Open, and we'll do the Cheesehead quiz as we do every Monday as well on the podcast with the Talking Cheesehead. cheeseheadtalk.com.
The Talking Cheeseheads on cheeseheadtalk.com.